T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Greatness Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Weiss. I'm a life coach, speaker, author, and founder of the Greatness Movement based here in Phoenix, where we guide you to become the greatest version of yourself. As always, please, if you like the show, share it with your friends, whether you're watching on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Subscribe and share it with people. Tonight's title, Being Nice Isn't Nice. Well, I figured that I'd get some attention. Everyone likes to be nice or thinks it's great to be nice. But we have a real skewed version of what being nice really is. Really, what I've discovered over the years is the way we're taught to be nice really isn't nice. It's actually a manipulation and a bartering. And it leaves so many of us not feeling like someone's been nice to us. And so I wanted to describe kind of where that comes from or give examples so that, I mean, let's face it, we all like to be nice, unless you're a sociopath or psychopath. But most of us really enjoy being nice, and we love it when someone's nice to us. But a lot of times their attempts to be nice, the message doesn't get across. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about why that happens and how to change it. The first thing I want you to think about is, pardon me, we've all been told that, you see this in like giver's gain and, reciprocity. The key to success in life is do things for other people, right? Isn't that the whole key to success? I don't care who you're listening to, what thought leader it is. They're all saying that, just focus on giving to others and it'll come back to you. Even the Bible says that, right? That's what we've all been raised with, is that just give, 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 give. That's how you be nice to people. Well, how has that worked out so far? I mean, think of it when you do, like especially church people, they do a lot of volunteering, or even if you're not aligned with any sort of religion or church, if you do any type of volunteer work, I want you to think about something. Like I said, we've all been sold what's really a lie. We've all been told that we're supposed to be selfless and do things for other people. It's not possible. It's one of the lies we've all been taught. It is humanly impossible to be selfless. And here's your proof. Think about it. Ask anyone. I want you tomorrow, go to your coworkers, your spouse, your friends, whatever, and find out any sort of giving they've done recently or volunteer work or any efforts they've made to help people. And I want you to ask them this question. I want you to ask them, so why do you do that? Why do you spend so much time volunteering? Why do you spend so much time giving to other people? And without fail, every single person is going to say, I just love the way it makes me feel. Right? Isn't that what everyone says? Why they give, why they're nice? They love the way it makes them feel. Well, who's that about? See, they never say. If they ever talk about the other person, they'll say something like, I love to see the reaction in other people when I do this for them. Well, who's that about? It's about themselves. Nobody ever gives because they care about the other person. They give because of the feeling they get from giving or being nice. It makes them feel good about themselves. That's the common misconception. You can never, ever give unless it makes you feel good about yourself. I'm gonna show you why in just a second. But think through that. Whenever you've been nice or you've done volunteer work or anybody, they always talk about themselves first. They never describe the other person. That's because to survive, we have to be selfish. We can't be selfless. We would never survive as a species if we weren't self-oriented. It's healthy, it's loving. The problem is we've been sold this lie, or well, it's a lie, but it's also the way to be nice is wrong. We've been given incorrect information, like so many things. We're not taught how to be nice. We're just told this dictum of do things for other people, be selfless. Well, what happens? At some point, don't we all get upset when we don't get it back? We're sitting there. Just scroll through LinkedIn, scroll through Facebook, and see how many people are complaining that their family didn't support them. They started a new business, or they got in a relationship, or they did some kind act for their spouse or their son or their daughter or something, and they're puking all over Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook how it's not appreciated, right? Isn't that what happens? That's because you can't give unless it comes from a place inside you that works, okay? So what that means is we've been taught a model of giving that's called giving yourself away. All right, it's actually a manipulation. And there's the proof. Think about it. If you've taken out the trash for your spouse and then they don't sleep with you, or if you cook for them and take care of the kids and they never compliment you, what are your complaints, right? When you do all of these things for other people, you volunteer at the church, you volunteer at Habitat for Humanity, you run to the store for a friend who's sick and in need, and then when you call them, they're not there for you, and you throw it in their face, or you support one of your family members in some venture they're doing, and then you start a new venture and they don't support you, they tell you it's wrong, right? All of these things happen all the time, correct? We've all had that experience. Well, that proves my point that we've all been sold a lie on how to be nice and the right way to give, okay? You should never, ever, ever do anything nice for anybody unless it makes you feel good about yourself. Because if it doesn't, if you're not perfectly okay with it, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it back in their face. And that's what happens repeatedly in our culture. Is we have been taught this model of being nice, be selfless, give everything to everybody else. That's kind and loving. I mean, my God, look at the Kardashians and any reality dating show. And it's all about they need to support me at all times and have my back, or they don't love me. Or you look through the Facebook groups on love and it's all, I need a man who never looks at another woman and always has my back. And when I'm sick, they rub my head. Like they have to do everything. That's a false reality. It's not real. That's massive codependence. See, the model we've been taught on how to be nice is actually codependence. It's something called negative control, and I'm going to get into all of these aspects. There are many levels involved here of everything we've been taught about how to be nice that actually creates resentment, anger, and hatred. It does the exact opposite of what we all are searching for, okay? Because we've been sold this bill of goods that if we go out and do everything for everybody else, it'll come back to us. So we sit there waiting for it to come back to us. And when it doesn't come back to us, we get angry and resentful and we lash out. That's because we didn't want to do it. We did it with a manipulation in mind to get something back. It was not authentic. And how you know it's authentic is that you're complaining about it. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to look through your life at any nice thing you've ever done for anyone, any sacrifice you've ever made. If you've ever thrown it back in their face, I call it the ABCDY argument. In other words, you go, I've done A, B, C, and D for you, and you won't even do Y for me. We've all had those arguments, right? With our friends, our family, our partners, our people at work. We do their proposals for them, everything. If you've ever done that, or even silently done that, then what you have done is codependent, it's manipulative, it's called negative control. It is not nice. Yet that's how everybody acts nice. Eventually, they throw it back in your face. And that's the model we've all been taught, that if you really love somebody, you'll give up everything for them and do everything for them. And so we try. But eventually, but inside, there's certain requests they're making. We're like, I don't want to do this, but I've got to be loving. I have to be giver's gain and give things to other people. I have to do things for others and it'll come back. Even that sentence, everyone says it that way. If you give, it'll come back tenfold. Right there's a false premise. The only reason you're giving is for the tenfold. That's the model we've been taught. It's a manipulation. You give because it makes you feel good about yourself, regardless of whether they appreciate it, recognize it, affirm you for it, pat you on the back, or ever do anything for you in return. That's what being nice is. That's what giving is. All right? It's really simple. Drop the whole giver's gain. Just be a giver without the expectation. Drop the, if you give, you get it back tenfold. Drop the tenfold. That's all manipulative. The giver's gain motto is all manipulative because the gain part at the end, that's the lie. That's what we've all been raised with. Throw that out because you're manipulating the hell out of somebody. I don't want to pay for what you're giving me. Please. Like, think of it. How many times have you had it thrown in your face that somebody did something for you and then you weren't there for them when they needed you? Well, you know what? Gag me. Don't ever be there for me, because I know I have this cloud and this hammer hanging over my head, which is going to beat the heck out of me. So please never do anything for me. Do it for you. Do it for you. I do all of this because I love it. I love talking about this stuff. This is all about me. Now, is there an ancillary benefit? Of course. Thousands of people watch my show, hire me, go to my groups, whatever. Do they benefit? Of course they do. But I do it for me. I say this all the time. Mother Teresa never did a single thing for anybody, ever. She's known as the greatest Samaritan and giver of all time. But I guarantee you, she didn't ever do a single thing for anybody. Just like me, she woke up every day addicted to the way it made her feel to do charity work. Just like I'm addicted to discovering all of these falsities and the ways we've been taught to live and the things that are in my book and, codependence and love addiction, all these things. I'm fascinated by psychology because the science is only 150 years old. Like, the next wave in the world is all this emotional development. Everyone thinks it's tech. It's a waste of, like, you're wasting your time if you're chasing tech. Because literally in thousands of years of human existence, we are 150 years old into the exploration of how our emotions work. That is the essence of humanity. Everything we do is emotion-based. We've never explored this. And really, it didn't even start until the last 50 years. Like, everyone listening, we're like pioneers of the development of humanity. The next 100 years, the emotional maturity of the species is going to go through the roof. Like with all the discord and politics and everything, all of this emotional dysfunction, like the world is craving the stuff I talk about and other people talk about, because we're so immature emotionally, so uneducated emotionally. People think for thousands of years, they've been thinking this is nice. I know people listening to this are going, oh my God, he's dead right. All I do is manipulate by giver's gain. By if you give, it comes back tenfold. I never thought of it that way. For thousands of years, that's what we've been teaching, and it's wrong. Look at all these new discoveries. Like, I'm addicted to that. That's all about me. You people who are listening, you're the ancillary benefit of an addiction I have to something that makes me happy. Sure, I love it if you learn and grow, but it starts with me. That's the only way you give. It has to meet your needs and wants, your morals and values first, and always and completely. If it doesn't, eventually you're going to take that gift away. That just popped into my head. Instead of giver's gain, it's going to be giver's slain. You are going to slay them with your gift. Eventually, you're going to boomerang around and cut their head off because they didn't give it back. That's what will happen. And you all know that. We've all lived that experience. Please don't ever give unless it works within your morals and values, your needs and wants, your negotiables and non-negotiables. If you don't know what those are, I've talked about them before. I'll drop into them here a little bit later. So the first thing in this whole process is stop giving. Stop right now. Stop being nice. You're not being nice. You're hurting yourself and other people. Make damn sure before you ever do anything for anybody else, you are perfectly okay with it. Now, to be perfectly okay with it, you have to know what your morals and values are. See, we've never taught self-awareness, so most people have no clue. Their morals and values vary day to day. They go like this. In part because of childhood, we were never allowed to express our needs and wants. Think about it. Our parents are always right. We can't say no to them. So that's why our morals and values tend to be what theirs are, but they're not really, we say we agree with them, but it's only conditioning because we weren't allowed to speak against it. And that's where the resentment comes from. We don't know how to say no, so we give. We do things for others to get them to like us. And because it's the nice thing to do, we're all supposed to be nice and give, just like we did with our parents. Our parents asked us to do something. Inside we stewed. I don't want to do this. But we did it. We got trained to give, to be nice. So mom and dad like me because I'm doing what they say. Then they won't yell at me. And so that's the model we've been taught is nice. Say yes. Do everything for somebody else. And then what happens? There invariably, there are a couple things in there we're okay with, but more often than not, we don't want to do any of it. And eventually we eviscerate them for it. We make them pay. We destroy them. That is called negative control. All right. Once you have given, or after you've given, and then you start cutting them up for not giving back, you throw it in their face. I've been doing A, B, C, D for you, and you won't do Y. What that is called is negative control. In other words, you have set up your own victimization. You've set up your own negative situation. And now you're using that negativity to control the other person. Because think about it. You call your friend up, you send them a text, whatever. I did this, this, and this. You owe me this. I've just used negativity to control your behavior because they were also raised by the same parents who, when they got told they were bad, they couldn't say no either. So they sit there. They'll either argue with you, they'll deny it, just like your parents did when you caught your parents not telling the truth and not doing the right thing. They couldn't be wrong in your eyes. They couldn't admit it. So your friend will do the exact same thing, or your partner. Or what they will do is refuse to do it. But eventually, through enough guilt and enough shaming of them for not giving you the same treatment in return, they'll eventually give in and do it. I'm sorry, is that nice? They're pissed off, angry. Then they're just going to throw it back. Well, remember, you called me all upset, yelling and screaming at me, which was a lie. It wasn't even true, but I did it for you anyway. I supported you. Now you need to support me. So it becomes this endless circle of both sides using negative control to manipulate the other person, to get them to meet their needs and wants, their morals and values. They don't know how to do it for themselves. So I'm going to control you to get what I want. And I'm going to do it by being nice. That's the model we've been taught. Sound about right? Does that feel nice? Never felt nice to me. I can't stand when people give to me. Can't stand it. Because I know very, very few people are aware of what I talk about. And so most of the time they give to me, I know what's coming. So I don't accept it, or I don't shower them with stuff. The beauty is when they come back, when they ask for it, I put it right in their face. I'm like, yeah, I don't succumb to negative control. I don't succumb to this manipulation. I've learned it's not loving to you and it's not loving to me. So that's one of the remedies. Another thing that creates this, it's also called giving yourself away. Well, I'll get to the remedies in a minute. I want to get into giving yourself away. What happens in that process, it's very similar to negative control. We are actually giving ourselves away. I'm going to give you support, love, items, things, right? And eventually I'm going to come back and ask for them to come back to me. Okay? Well, I've already shown you how manipulative that is. So why do they do it? Where does the giving yourself away come from? Well, giving yourself away comes from incredibly low self-esteem because, as I described, our parents strip us of our self-esteem. Even the most perfect parents, and all of you saying, oh, my childhood was great. I love sitting with people who say their childhood was great. In 3 questions or less, all of a sudden they've had a realization of how absolutely destructive their parents were. But since we don't talk about this, they don't know how manipulative, how codependent, how awful their parents were. They just don't know. Like literally, every single person I ever sit with, I have ever sat with, whether it was a client or even someone in an idle conversation, who's told me their childhood was great and their parents were great. Within 5 questions or less, I've walked them into how absolutely destructive their parents were, and they have no clue. They're not bad people, but what did I say? We've just learned about psychology in the last 150 years, and we really didn't start talking about it till 50 years ago with talk shows. The Phil Donahue Show, Oprah. So how the hell would they know to parent you without hurting you? I'm not saying your parents are bad. I'm just getting you into reality. That's the next wave of human development, is let's get into reality about what life really is and the trauma we've all suffered. That's how we'll move forward. That's the whole basis of everything I teach. No one's in reality of where their life is and what they've suffered. That's why they're miserable and their jobs suck and their relationships suck, because they don't have this information. So, because our parents inadvertently, very rarely do parents directly, by conscious choice, try to destroy us. It happens, but that's rare. More often than not, it's subconscious because it's been a societal parenting model that's been passed down for centuries. So they're not even aware of it. Okay. So they eviscerate our self-esteem and fill us with shame. Here's a perfect example. We've all heard this from our parents. All right. Every single parent has said to us, you guys are driving me crazy. Just stop it. Okay. We've all heard that and we think nothing of it. Well, here's what that means. What that means is mom or dad, let's say it's mom yelled that at you. Mom has lost what's called an internal boundary. Mom has absolutely no skill set at handling her emotions. And so, like a child, she explodes and she projects because of her inability to control her emotions. She has a self-esteem and shame attack. I feel powerless. I can't get these kids to do what I want. That makes me feel less than, inadequate as a mother. I can't do it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to resort to anger. Anger in any form is fear. What is fear? Fear of rejection, inadequacy, powerlessness. She fears rejection. If I'm not a good mother, people will reject me. I'm inadequate. I've never taken a class on how to be a mother, and I can't stop these kids, and I'm completely powerless. So she yells out at the kids. You guys are driving me crazy. Like I'd be fine if it weren't for you guys. Wham. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12-year-old kid goes, wow. So I'm the problem in mom's life. Self-esteem, eviscerated, gone. I destroy my mom's life. Oh my God. That's the last thing I want to do as a child. I want my mom's love and approval. I want my mom to be okay, because if my mom's not okay, I can't survive my life. I need mom okay. Oh my God, I must be the worst child in the world if I drive my mom crazy. Like I drive my mom crazy. Oh my God, that scares the living hell out of me. What if mom goes crazy? So you lay in bed at night. Some kids do this, lay in bed at night. Oh my God, what if mom goes crazy? Who's going to raise me? Who's going to be my mom? Will I go to foster care? Like literally, these are the thoughts and feelings that come out of that one comment, which every parent has yelled, even the best parents. Now, did you hear the self-talk? Complete shaming. Telling themselves how bad they are. So that's where giving yourself comes from. Giving yourself away comes from. As a child, your who you were was stripped from you, because see, in that moment when mom says I'm driving her crazy, I have to become something different. I have to give away myself, my authentic Kenny, or whatever your name is that's watching. I have to give that away so that I survive and mom's okay. That's where it gets taught. So we push down, for many people, we actually suppress who we are. That's the shame piece. We then adapt and adopt new personas to satisfy that shame, self-esteem attack from our parents, because wait a minute, this behavior, this Kenny that I am will make my mom go crazy, and then I live alone. She's in a sanitarium. Well, this model of Kenny better die. I better become something different real quick. I'm going to give away who I am and become this new thing. And so as adults, then we're sent the message, give, givers gain. God, that thing just drives me insane. It's so wrong. Give and you'll receive tenfold. Wrong. It's the wrong message. It's recreating that giving yourself away, that codependence, the negative control, because in both of those, The second half of the sentence is the problem. It's a manipulation. It's a control dynamic. I will give, so I gain. I will give, so I receive tenfold. That's not giving. That's not nice. So we as adults continually give ourselves away to our partner, to everybody else. So the remedy is, there are 3 questions, 3 things you have to look at before you ever give, are ever nice, or ever do anything for anybody. You have to go back and, in a sense, reparent yourself. What truly are your morals and values? You gave yourself away as a child to become what they wanted. Are you really okay with that? Have you done the self-awareness work to know? Or are you just doing it because it got programmed into you? Because so many people, they think this is who they are. It's just an adapted persona because they're still tied in at 55 years old trying to get their parents to love them. And so they become a Democrat, Republican, whatever it may be, because they're giving themselves away to keep their parents close to them. So do you really know these are your morals and values? Do you really know your needs and wants? Most people, clients, I'm like, so what are your needs and wants? They're like, what is that? What does that mean? They don't even know. That's because, again, as children, we couldn't say no. We couldn't have our own needs and wants. They were all determined by our parents. Again, that's where the false persona comes in. We give ourselves away. I will have needs and wants, morals and values that are commensurate with whatever keeps mom from going crazy and dad from drinking. I will become whatever you want. So the first remedy to being nice is you must go do some massive work. Sorry, there's just no other way around it. The amount of people that are in this world who actually know who they are could fit on the top of a pin drop, because they're in the cycle that I talk about in my book. No one knows. No one knows. They don't know who they are. Like I said, all of this is brand new. 150 years old, the last 50 years. And what I discovered about, literally, I walk down the streets all day, and my clients who've stuck with the process, they walk in one day and go, oh my God, Kenny, you're right. Nobody knows who they are. They don't. They think they do. But when you get far enough along, you can literally see it all day, every day. Even the brightest people in your life, you're like, oh my, when you do this work, you're like, oh my God, that's not, they're making all this money, doing all this stuff. It's not actually who they are, and they don't even know it. You'll see it. Like it drips off of them when you learn how the cycle works that I talk about. So the first thing you need to do is some deep self-awareness work. The only book out there that'll help you do that is my book. I'm not trying to promote myself, but all the other books, I used all of them to help me discover what I discovered. They're great. Start with them. If you've never done anything, start with all the great self-help books out there. I don't care what they are. They're all great. They're a great place to start. But the only book or process on the market to fully discover who you are is the one I developed. That I know for sure. There isn't anything out there that I've ever seen that comes close to it. Now, you may not be ready for that. That's okay. Just get started with all the other stuff. Most of my clients, most people in my groups, they've already been to Tony Robbins, Landmark, PSI, you name it, Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, all great people, everything. But they finally go, whoa, this isn't, there's something missing. And then they run into my stuff. They go, bingo, this is the next step. So you may not be ready for mine. That's fine. But go do self-awareness work so you know what your morals and values are, your needs and wants are. Okay? Now, maybe you're pretty advanced in that process. Okay? Wonderful. That's good. I mean, that takes guts because our culture pushes all of this away. But that's changing. We're changing that. All of you people who are listening, we're changing that. We are the next wave in humanity. We are anyone who watches the stuff I talk about or comes to any of the stuff I do, You are part of the next massive change in humanity because it's this emotional growth which we've never pursued as a species. So don't forget that. You are pioneers in changing the world and what you're doing. Okay. So if you have a pretty good grasp on your morals and values, needs and wants, and don't tell me, oh, I know what they are, but you've done no self-awareness work, self-evaluation, or you've done a little bit. Sorry, you don't know. I'm just being straight with you. You don't know. You have to go much deeper. You have to separate out what the trauma, false personas you adapted because of your childhood. Most people have never done that work. They don't even know what that means. Okay. So, and I'll tell you why I'm confronting you on that in a second here. So once you've done that work, the next question you have to ask before you're ever nice or ever do anything for anyone, the first question you have to ask yourself is, will I ever bring this up in the future? In other words, am I ever going to tell this other person how nice I was to them, how giving and kind, how I did all these wonderful things for them? If you think you'll bring it up in the future, say no. Don't do it. That's the giver's gain model. That's the give and you'll receive tenfold. That's negative control. That's giving yourself away. It's manipulative. It's ugly. Please stop. Please actually be nice and don't do it. You are not being nice. Not at all. The next question you ask yourself is, okay, maybe I'll never bring it up, but deep down, do I think I might resent them for it? Are you going to boil over it? Are you going to keep a ledger? Are you going to keep score? If you think the answer is yes to either of those questions, please be nice and don't do them. Don't give. Don't support. Don't have their back. Don't volunteer. Don't go get things for them. Please actually be nice and say no. Please don't manipulate them. Please love them authentically and say no. Say no. Only do any of that stuff because you want to. You have a burning desire, and the act of doing it makes you feel good about yourself. That is the only time you ever do anything for anybody else. Now, sometimes you have the reserves. You may not be burning passion to go do something. It may not sound like it's really going to make you feel good, but you have the reserves where you can satisfy those two questions. One, I'm never going to bring it up in the future that I did this for them. And two, I'm not going to hold resentment against them. So what I'm saying is, because everyone's told, well, do it even if you don't want to. That's kind and loving. No, that's not a blanket statement. And yet you've all been told that. It's not a blanket statement. Only do it. Like there are times I do things I don't want to do. I'm not fired up to do, but I have the reserves. It's like, look, sometimes I don't want to do this show. I don't. I'm not really fired up about it. But I also know that once I get into it or afterwards, I'm like, man, that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. See, I won't hold resentment. Like I get a lot of private messages. People want me to counsel them for free. Well, sometimes I have great conversations. I'm in the mood. Someone's asked me a question. I'm like, oh my God, I want to answer that. So they basically get a counseling session for free, but I did it because I wanted to. Other times people get in touch with me. I'm like, the last thing I want to be doing right now is counseling somebody for free. And so I may not even respond. It depends where I am in that moment. I may wait a day or two to respond. I may respond very boundaried and give the problem back to them. My answers may be without advice, but in the form of a question so they can further investigate the answer themselves, because I may be feeling like, because I get this a lot. A lot of people they want to come to me with how bad their life is and they want me to fix it. And the second I go, buy the book, join a group, book a session, they disappear. They don't want to do the work. They just want to manipulate me into their victimhood. Well, I can see through that. And so I don't buy in. And so I give them the problem back. I won't counsel them for free because that would be abusive. See? And that's the model everyone else has been taught. Oh, no, someone reaches out for help, especially in this field, counseling. Oh, we have to be there for people. Gag me. For that type of person who, when I give them the options of how to recover from the situation, they ignore it and don't take action, I'm not supporting them and loving them by answering their questions. I'm not giving. I'm not being nice. All I'm doing is enabling their problem just so I can steal and make myself feel good about myself for being smarter than them or knowing something. But all I'm doing is recreating my own powerlessness and pardon me, and further entrenching their own powerlessness. Well, that's not kind. See, I know it. That's why I won't do it. Now, they may get ticked off at me. They may think I'm selfish and rude. Well, that's because they haven't done the work. They won't buy the book or take the suggestions. And so they think I'm a problem and they'll text friends or whatever. He's a jerk, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, fine. It doesn't affect me because I know it's not true. They don't have the information. They don't know. See, earlier, like I was saying, the reason I'm confronting you about morals and values, needs and wants, and I bring up that whole text message, people trying to get counseling for free and then blame me and why it doesn't bug me. The reason I'm being so demonstrative about that is it's not kind and loving to lie to you about that. You cannot be nice unless you know who you are. And you can't know who you are unless you've done the work. None of us have been taught how to do self-discovery. We just become what the environment makes us into. Tony Robbins has a great analogy. He calls it the inner tube in the river or something like that. People just hop on an inner tube. This is how virtually everyone lives their life. They just hop on an inner tube and bounce off the rocks and go, oh, I'm an accountant. Yeah, I'm married with kids. Don't know how it happened. They have no clue who they are, how they got there. That's why, unless you've done the self-evaluation work, and because of the cycle I talk about, everybody's living out of their trauma. That's why they don't know who they are. That's why they don't know their morals and values. They don't know their needs and wants until you go back and become an expert in all that pain and trauma that you stuffed for years. And oh yes, all of you going, not me. I didn't go through that. Baloney. We all did. And that's the first thing. You need to get over that. And so I wouldn't be nice. See, the old model is don't say things like that because that's not nice. No, that is nice. Authenticity is love. It's just fact. It's just fact. Fact is different than judgment. Fact is different than an opinion. Sharing facts is loving. I'm not trying to change your reality and change your feelings about something. I'm just sharing facts, just like this sign is black and says the greatness movement on it. That's a fact. If you want to argue with me, knock yourself out. So that's kind and loving. I won't enable somebody's false persona. That wouldn't be loving. That's one of the other ways you turn all this around. You have to set consequences and then follow through with them. So that's why when people try and get me to counsel them for free, I set a consequence and follow through. Like when I see them trying to manipulate me, my consequence is I don't let it happen. And I follow through on that. That sends them the message. Yep, I've been able to hoodwink a lot of people. I'm not going to hoodwink this guy. There've been plenty of people I've had great long conversations with, and they say, "Oh, I really want help." And the second I send them links, poof, disappear, never do any of it. Well, the next time they reach out, they get a different response from me. I will not buy in and further their victimhood. I set a consequence. You had an opportunity. I gave it to you. You have chosen. You don't want it. I'll honor that. And I'm going to love you enough and truly be nice by not allowing you to manipulate us both and continue the dynamics that are destroying your life. I set a consequence and I follow through on it. And in the process, I'm the first person who's being nice to them. Perfect example. There's a guy I knew really struggling with alcoholism. and I knew the guy. And I had 8 people reach out to me. They're like, "Kenny, you've got to call him. You've got to help him. He needs so much help. He's really struggling." And I knew he didn't want help. I know the guy. The first 5, 6 people, I just went, "I'll think about that." Like I didn't want, they weren't asking. See, I knew they were codependently involved with him. They weren't really trying to help him. They just needed the power of being a fixer. But I didn't want to tell them that. They didn't ask me that question. It would be a boundary failure on my part. Well, by the time I got to the 7th or 8th person that asked me, finally the 8th, we had enough of a relationship where I'm like, "Look, you're the 8th person who's asked me to do this. The last thing I'm going to do is reach out to him. Because the 8 of you want to fix the problem more than he does. Why would he ever quit when he has 8 of you working the problem harder than him? Look at all the attention. Look at all the power. There's no incentive for him." Finally, one day, it was like a month later, he called me like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, completely drunk, like lit up, and started going in about all the tough things he's been through. And granted, they're horrific. I stopped him right away. I was like, I said, "Look, I'm going to let you know, I'm going to be the first person to love you. I'm not going to listen to your story. I'm not going to enable you. It's not kind and loving. If you want help, we can set an appointment. But if you don't want to set an appointment, there's nothing I can say to you. And I'm going to hang up the phone." Because what it tells me is you are trying to get me to buy into your victimhood and your story and stay stuck in it because it works for you, because you've been able to coerce so many other people into it. Well, that's what's keeping you drunk. I won't abuse you that way. So would you like to set an appointment or not? Didn't say a word. And I said, "Well, your lack of response tells me the answer is no. So I'm letting you know I'm hanging up now. If you ever decide to address the problem, you have my number. I would love to help you." And I hung up. That is nice. That is love. That's a hell of a lot different than what everyone else has done. It's a completely different model. But look at those 8 people. They were broken down and frustrated and hurt and sad because they'd rescued him from all these terrible tragedies. They'd, tried to get him all this help, but he never got help. So they got resentful. They were angry. They were hurt because they were doing so much for him. And he kept lying to them and he kept not quitting drinking. They never helped him. They were never nice. They did it to manipulate him. They wanted the power of being the fixer. It had nothing to do with being nice to him. Now, did they know that? No, because as far as I know, I'm the first one who's ever talked about how this nice dynamic we've all been taught is completely false. So they're not bad people. They're just doing what they know. You can only do what you know. As you know better, for the first time in your life, you have a choice as to whether you want to do better. I mean, that's anyone who watches my show, that's literally where you are. None of you are bad people, but you're learning new information. You're not to blame for the imperfections in your life before you hear this information that I talk about. You did the best you could with the information that was given to you. You're not to blame for the imperfect consequences. That's not true. You're not to blame for being imperfect. There are consequences to that. You may be going through a divorce because you didn't have the information. You can't outrun those. But if you listen to my show, read my book, do any of the stuff, now that you have new information, for the first time in your life, you have a choice as to whether or not you want to do better. If you choose not to do the work, if you choose not to investigate all of this and get better, then yes, from this day forward, or at whatever point you've been watching me and listening to my stuff and you still won't do the work, then yes, you can be blamed for everything because you finally had the information and you chose not to change, not to face it, not to deal with it. That's on you. And to tell you that is incredibly nice, incredibly loving, even if it doesn't feel that way. But see, if you did the work, you'd go, oh my God, that was the kindest thing anyone ever said to me. That's what would happen. The people that have done the work, they'll comment, they'll see it, they'll go, oh my God, yeah. So now the other thing you have to recognize in all of this is well, I'm pausing. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm looking at the time. We don't have enough time left. I'm going to give you steps. If you're at that place where you've heard some things tonight and you go, yeah, he's right. I'm not to blame. I didn't know any better, but now I do. Or maybe you've been listening for a long time and you've never heard me say that. And you're like, geez, he's right. I'm watching every week, but I'm not doing the work. Well, I want to give you some tools to help you get started for free. 1, watch all my shows. Start learning these dynamics. 2, self-esteem work. The reason you haven't done anything about it is you're in massive denial. You don't want to admit your imperfections. You don't want to see them. You don't want to admit that your parents were imperfect. You're scared. You think you're scared of addressing the pain and trauma. Even some of you are aware, but you're like, oh, I'm just scared of it. It's not true. It's an excuse. You're in denial. You want to hold on to the false self-concept that you have. And so here's how this works. If you've been listening and refuse to do the work, that's because your denial is so high. You're protecting all of your pain, all of your false personas, the false you that you created to survive the trauma you went through. And so the only way this crumbles is if self-esteem rises. Because as self-esteem rises, now I have a landing pad to absorb these perfect imperfections that up to this point, I don't want to look at, I don't want to admit, I don't even want to investigate. That's what your fear is the investigation. You have it wrong. Your fear is admitting and seeing, oh my God, how imperfect I am. Well, that's why the key is raising the self-esteem, because as this grows, I can accept how absolutely awful I am. I outlined that whole process in my book. The day I can't remember the chapter number, but the day I saw my darkness. It's when I realized when I finally saw how absolutely like horrifically awful I am, I was free. And that's what taught me, oh my God, all the years of self-esteem work, I had finally grown enough that I could accept this awful truth about myself. And the moment I accepted it, like I was filled with this immense self-love. See, it's opposite than what we think. We think, oh my God, I don't want to admit this about myself. But the second you do, you're free. It's your avoidance of it that's killing you. But everyone has it backwards, just like the being nice. Everyone, like the secret to life, literally almost everything's in the opposite. I outline it in my book, like nobody knows. It's like so simple. Oh, don't go there. Don't deal with your pain. Don't see it. Actually, when you become an expert in it, poof, life gets easy. See, the other thing is, think of that. If you're able to accept the most horrific thing about yourself, would you ever need approval from somebody else? No, never, never. Would you ever be upset if somebody called you a name or said something bad about you? Well, you might. It'd be human to have a bad day and react to it. But instantly, because of that experience, you'd go, yeah, there's truth to that. I can be a, real POS sometimes. So, yeah, they just saw it. What's the big deal? That's freedom. That's freedom. So how do you build self-esteem? Stop being nice. Stop giving yourself away. Stop using negative control. Affirmations, talk about it all the time. Start pursuing personal growth. Start discovering who you are as you see who you are, who you truly are, and how awful you are. The exact opposite of your fear happens. What you discover is how wonderful you are. You get set free. It's your only way out. It's your only way out. And literally, what most people don't realize, because they haven't been through the process, they think it's this big, long journey. And then once they go through, it is. But what you realize, once you get there, you realize all your life you've been that far away. For those of you listening on the radio, I'm holding up a piece of paper, the thickness of a piece of paper, but nobody's shown you the pathway out. That's why you think it's this big, arduous process. And it takes you a while to drop the denial and build the self-esteem. And then once you do, you're like, oh my God, it was so simple. It was right there, right in front of me all the time. But you just didn't have the information. All right. I'm going to wrap it up there. I saw a comment. Somebody wanted to know about my book. My book is available on Amazon. It's called Your Journey to Success. It's in paperback, Kindle, and Audible, all three formats. If you're looking for a copy, those of you who are interested, you can get it right now. If you want more information on ways I help people, just send me an email to kenny@thegreatnessmovement.com. I'm happy to tell you about the groups and the other things we do. To sum up, if you want to be nice to people, stop giving yourself away, stop using negative control. Don't ever do anything for anybody unless it makes you feel good about yourself. That's the key. All right. As I end every show, I always say the same thing. Remember, whenever we judge, blame, or criticize, we're in denial. The only reason we can see those things in the other person is because they operate in us either directly or indirectly. They are literally showing us the trauma we have unaddressed. So politically, if you hate anyone, coworker, spouse, whatever your complaints are of somebody, your complaint is with yourself. If you don't know that, you haven't done the self-awareness work to see that you're the problem. Okay? Now, the converse of that is true. Whenever you see greatness, whenever you see wonderful things in other people, you can't see it unless it's something, a trait you possess as well. If you're having a hard time accepting how great you are, when you hear that statement go, oh, you think of someone really powerful or really great, and you're like, oh, I don't have that skill. If you can't accept that, if you can't find it, then the greatness movement is for you. We'd love to help you. And we'd love to help you find and walk in the greatest version of yourself. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the comments. I'll answer them here shortly. Go be genuinely nice this week. Make comments on my Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. Let me know how nice you were. I'd love to hear it. All right, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
I can do anything. I can reach any goal today. I can do what I want. I can be what I want to be.
Coach on Fire Radio.